Welcome to the Kindness Podcast. I'm Nicole Phillips. Do you want to hear something funny? I I am 4 minutes late for starting this because I legitimately kept pressing the wrong buttons. Like for 4 minutes, I've been pressing the wrong buttons. Do you think I'm a little nervous to talk to Danny Gokey? I think I'm a little excited to talk to him. I was just listening to him. I was getting my Danny Gokey jam going and cannot wait. So this is the Kindness Podcast. I'm Nicole Phillips. I am so happy that you are here today because we are kicking off season 5 of the Kindness Podcast. I cannot believe it has been 5 years that we've been doing this. I'm like, whoa, what just happened, right? It's like when you watch your kids and they're little and then all of a sudden they're driving and then all of a sudden they're like calling from college because they need money. I don't know what happens. It's just boom, boom, boom. So that's what I feel like this kindness journey has been like. Danny's going to join us in just a few moments, but I want to visit with you about something first. I feel like if you've been with me for the past 5 years, either through the writing, maybe the past 10 years through the Kindness is Contagious column, or through books or speaking or this for the past 5 years, I feel like we're kind of friends, right? And I feel like friends don't just keep things surface level. Friends show kindness by being really authentic and sometimes vulnerable. And so I want to just take a few minutes and talk with you about what has happened since we ended season 4. So season 4 of the Kindness Podcast ended in May of 2021. And from January until May, I struggled with depression. Now, I have had problems with depression on and off since, I can remember maybe 10 years old. And so I felt the dark clouds kind of roll in. And usually I can feel them roll in. And then I have tools that I use to kind of say, okay, scooch, scooch. But this time they weren't scooching. They were just coming in harder and harder and harder. And it was just, I realized I needed help. And so I had a great therapist. I ended up going on some medication that really helped turn things around. But what became apparent to me by about May, about the time that the podcast was closing up for the season, what became apparent to me was that I needed to rest. I needed to rest and I needed to heal. And I needed to really think about what the next 10 years of this kindness journey would look like. And, I have always been, a woman of faith. I would say for the past 10 years, I really tried walking hand in hand with Jesus and just being led by the Holy Spirit. So in May, when we shut everything down, I also stopped writing, stopped speaking for the most part, and I just decided to rest. And during that time, I was praying to God and saying, God, would you please bring my joy back for this kindness ministry? Because I do feel it's so important. I feel like there are really concrete tools that we can use to add more kindness into our lives and to really take our thoughts captive so that we end up being people who, instead of just having reactions, we can have thought out reactions, right? They're not like seat of my pants reactions. They're more, hey, this is how I want to respond to that. So maybe responses rather than reactions might be the best way to put that. So I was praying about that I would get my joy back, that God would help me with that. And I felt him say, I need you to give this all back to me. Now that's really scary. I have a team of 3 wonderful women who volunteer to help me. And, I've got speaking engagements on the docket and, all kinds of different things that I feel like I promised people I would do. And yet, when God shows up and says, I need you to give it all back to me, you have a pretty big choice to make. You can either say, okay, I trust you. Or you can say, give me a minute. I'm gonna go take care of some things. And when I feel like I've closed everything down and no one's expecting anything from me, then I'll give it back to you. Well, there's a story in the Bible about that too, about somebody who wanted to follow Jesus and then said, hey, let me go bury my parents first. Let me go take care of my stuff at home first. And that wasn't okay with Jesus. He said, you know what? Follow me now. Like, now, now. And so as I was in this prayer time, I just felt like the right choice for me was to say, okay, God, I give it all back to you. I will stop all of it. And with the hope that, someday he'd give it back to me, because not only did I hear God say, I want you to give it all back to me, but I heard him say, and I will give it back to you in a more beautiful way than you could imagine. And so I'm living through these summer months and thinking, okay, God, well, let me pitch you some ideas about what might bring my joy back. Maybe if I could move to Orlando and like go to Disney World every other day and then do podcasts on the opposite days, like that would make me happy. Never mind that my family lives in Aberdeen, South Dakota, right? So I kept pitching ideas to God, and he kept saying to me, your sabbatical is not over yet. So finally, one day in the end of August, I was spending some time with God, and I got this burning desire to speak to the body of believers. So that would be like people who are Christians. They maybe go to church, they maybe don't. They maybe at one point really felt connected to God, but maybe don't now. And I thought, I just feel so badly for this body of frustrated believers. Like, we want to do the right thing. We want to be like Jesus. And yet people keep annoying us. They keep bothering us and bugging us and, making us react. And then I started thinking more about it, and God kind of opened up, kind of cracked my brain a little bit and said, okay, what if you went into churches or through social media and you use the tools that you've been using in businesses for the last 10 years? What if you use those tools for this beautiful body of frustrated believers, and you talked with them about how to how to deal with difficult people, how to quench that or just kind of crunch that critical spirit, so that it's no longer a part of our churches, so that when people walk into a church, they actually feel like it's a fun place to be, and that they are accepted there just the way they are, regardless. And God has always said to me, you just love up and love out. Don't worry about any of the rules. Just love up and love out. I'll take care of the rest. And so that's really been where I've been these past couple of months. I have been working on that. And part of that became evident to me that this podcast, the Kindness Podcast, needed to take on a new role. So it's not that I'm actually like switching lanes, I would say. It's more of like I put the blinker on and I'm going to veer this way. And the veering is taking this Kindness Podcast into the Christian sphere, where I can say to people like Danny Gokey, how have you seen God's kindness show up in your life? Because I'll tell you what, like, he might be Danny Gokey. He's married to a beautiful woman. They have 4 gorgeous little kids, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, he puts himself out there every single day. He puts himself out there to the criticism. He puts himself out there to the haters, just to bring hope to you and me. And to me, like, what could be more beautiful than that, right? And so that's what I wanted to be able to do. I wanted to be able to have these guests on that could really share how they've seen kindness in their lives, whether it's something they've done, something someone's done for them, or an act of God that they got to witness. And isn't that cool? So I had the absolute privilege of working with WOUB Public Media under the NPR, National Public Radio umbrella, for the past 4 years. And they were so gracious when I went and talked to them about, hey, here's where my heart's at. I love working with you, but I understand that that's public radio, and I can't just have a Christian show on public radio. And so I said, what do you think? And they said, okay, we give it to you. We give you the podcast. We give you your subscribers. We give you the logo. We give you the music. We give it all to you, which is unheard of in the media business, let me tell you. And so I got to take that, and then I met some people at Northwestern Media, which is part of the My Faith Radio, like Life 97.9 is in Fargo, and Life 102.5, and all of these stations, these Christian radio stations, now have a podcast arm. So this podcast arm is just starting, and it's called True North. And so I am one of the inaugural shows on the True North podcast network. And I'm really excited, really, really excited to be working with them and with that. So Danny had bus problems last night. You're going to see me right now checking my phone at the same time I'm talking to you, because I was just talking to his agent. And Danny's doing an East Coast tour right now, and they had bus issues last night. And so what that means is that he was going to be a little late. So they said, hey, instead of having him on at 1:30 Central, would it be okay if he came in at 1:45 Central, which is right now? So I'm hoping, I'm looking at my phone to see if he is on his way, but I am hoping he is. And we're going to bring him in any second now. First, though, let's take a look at some of the comments coming through. This one is from Crystal Swenson. Good luck on your journey toward True North. And it's interesting because True North refers to God. It refers to Jesus. And so that's pretty fun. And thanks, Crystal. I'm really excited to be working with them and seeing what that means, because they have a team of people who are working to get this podcast channel up and running. And I just can't wait. I think it's going to be really great fun. So what you are going to find for the next little bit of time here with the podcast is that today I'm giving you this little introduction. Today we're going to talk with Danny Gokey for the kickoff of season 5. But if you like to get your podcast actually in podcast form on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, you will be able to do that. But we're not going to kick that off until end of November or early December. So I'll be sure to let you know when that's going to happen. But every once in a while, I'm going to pop in here with a really awesome guest. I know we're going to have Crystal Evans Hurst. I don't know if you've heard of her before, but she's Tony Evans' daughter. She's just a really neat lady. And so Adam Weber, who is from this super cool church in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Isn't that funny? I saw him nationally, and then I found out he was from Sioux Falls, and I'm like, dude, high fives. We are like neighbors. So, because I'm in Aberdeen, and that's 3 hours away, and in South Dakota, that's considered close neighbors, right? Okay. So let's see if we should stall a little bit, or if I should see if Danny's on his way. Okay. Do you want to be a part of this? Isn't this fun watching live TV right now? And by TV, I mean internets. Yeah, we're watching live internets. And okay, I am seeing if I have a phone number on here, because we could all call Christine, his agent, together, and we could be like, hey, how's Danny doing? Where is he? What's up? Yeah. Or I could just like shut this down and then come back in 5 minutes. But I think this is more fun hanging out here, isn't it? So as we're hanging, I see some of you are watching. So would you please say hi in the comments? Sound off. Tell me where you're coming at me from, so that I know I'm not talking to myself. Also, I have a 70-pound golden doodle, and I could be really sneaky and show you. Ready? Okay, I'm going to be really sneaky. She did not want to come down here today, which is funny because she always wants to. Do you see her? She's just laying on the floor there. She kind of matches the floor. By the way, during my sabbatical, that was one of the things I did. I decided that I needed a project to work with my hands. And you might find that when you want to hear from God, it's, for me at least, it's a great time to hear from God when my hands are busy. Because when my hands are busy and I can kind of just get into the rhythm of something like painting, things like that, I can feel God, I guess, because maybe I'm letting my energy out through my hands and through my body. So I can kind of channel in my mind a little better and find some peace in there. So one of the things during the sabbatical that I wanted to do was to go ahead and relay flooring. So that is what the YouTubes are for and the Googles are for. So that's what you do. Hey, that's enough about me, isn't it? Are y'all done with me right now? Are you? Because guess what? We got a super, super cool guy here. He's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay, I need all of you to clap really, really loud for season 5's guest, the beginning guest. And he is kicking it off. He's been on my radar since he was on American Idol in 2008 because I watched him from Milwaukee and he was from Milwaukee. So that was cool. By the way, if you have never listened to Danny Gokey's music, then just shut this off and go listen to Danny because that's way more important than this because he brings hope to your day and you're going to love it. Okay. Tell Your Heart to Beat Again. Haven't seen it yet. My personal favorite, Be All Right. Put your hands together for Danny Gokey.
Hey, what's up, Nicole? How are you?
Danny, I'm so good. Would you please tell me a story about what has happened with your bus? Because I feel like the bus
Yeah.
was an issue.
Yeah, so we were supposed to be on this call about 15 minutes ago, I think. And our bus ended up having some major issues yesterday, and it put us behind several hours. So we got into the venue probably about 5 hours later than we were supposed to. And we're rushing to get up. I had a couple interviews today, and I'm like, man, I got to rush to get a room and get some internet, get my computer set up. But here I am, finally made it. Thank
You're
God for His
here.
grace.
You're here. Okay, so before we get into the real juice of this, I need to really see if you are from Milwaukee.
All right,
Okay, are
let's
you
do it.
ready? Do you remember if I say to you, what's Spunky Sporting? Does that ring a bell at all?
Spunky Sporting? No. Why do I not know this?
Here's why you wouldn't know it, because you were doing something else at 7 o'clock in the morning instead of watching me on TV with Scott Steele because he did the
No
weather and
way.
I did the traffic and it was awesome and you never watched it.
What radio station? Was it a radio station?
TV. We did
It was
TV. It was
TV, but what's
WITI TV,
WITI? Oh
the
my gosh. Is
Fox
that
station at the time. Yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Now, how many years ago are we talking?
That was like 97, 98, 2000.
Yeah, I was on my way to school at that time in the morning. I'm so sorry, Nicole.
Hey, I forgive you, man. I forgive
I'm
you.
really sorry.
So, Danny,
Wow.
when I first got to know you, it was in 2008. I was part of that American Idol fan club. Where is your life now? Because it's radically different than then.
It is. Okay, so a little backstory. I did a lot of different things. I drove a semi truck. I was a worship leader at a church called Faith Builders. That's still there. The pastor there is still a close friend of mine, a spiritual father to me. And yeah, just working hard, barely making it too, but
Mhm.
just learning a lot about the goodness of God and learning about who God was, His character. Then American Idol hits, and I mean things take off, and I get a record deal. Just when you think it's going to take off, the record deal goes south. I get dropped from a record deal. But during that time, I get remarried, I should say, because people know my story. I'd lost my first wife unexpectedly a month before the show. But from that point, I now have 4 beautiful children, have a music career that's done better now. It took 5 years after American Idol for it to take off. But, God showed me that, hey, you know, I don't need man's help to build this. I got God. And if you got God on your side, anything can happen. And I have just a beautiful family and a beautiful ministry that I get to be a part of.
Okay, those little kids are coyotes.
I
And you know what? If
appreciate that.
somebody wants to see them, go ahead and Google it. But do you speak more than just English in your household?
Yes. There's a lot
What
of
do you speak?
Spanish going around, a lot of Spanish. And so my in-laws live with me. They speak Spanish only. So there's a lot of Spanish going in at our household and with our kids, which is a really great thing. And so my wife is half Cuban, half Peruvian. So her dad's from Peru, her mom's from Cuba, and they grew up in Miami, or my wife grew up in Miami, I should say. And then when we got married, we all kind of made a trek down this way.
That is special. Wow. So is that where some of the it feels like there's some Latin juice coming into your music, especially Be All Right.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Be Alright has that, todo va a estar bien, which means everything will be all right. I got a song on my Jesus People. I got my Jesus People hat on, but my record is called Jesus People that I released in August, late August. I got a song on there called Agradecido, which in Spanish means thankful. And if you get a chance, go check out the music video because I took my family, my wife, my kids to Puerto Rico, and we filmed the music video there. It's very tropical, very fun. You can see my kids there. The song is called Agradecido. Just put Danny Gokey and try spelling Agradecido. It'll come up. And then me and my wife have a podcast called Living La Vida Gokey that we just started. And so, it's a play off the words of, that famous song, but this is our life. It's crazy. And I'll tell you this, it's a fun podcast and we dig in deep. It's a video podcast, audio podcast. So Spanish, and I've released a song with my church called La Victoria, which means every victory, or the victory, if you want to be exact. But it's a song I did in English and in Spanish. I got another song coming out with another friend of mine called Redimidos, a song with Miel San Marcos. So I got a lot of Spanish stuff coming out, which I love.
Yeah. There is just a special, I don't know, I could just listen to Be All Right on repeat all the time. And I did
I
listen
love
to,
that.
uh, uh you're gonna have to say it.
Agradecido.
Yes, yes. I did
Yep.
listen to that. I didn't, right before the interview, but I did not watch the video. So now I'll go back and watch the video.
Yeah, the video
So
is a special part of my life because agradecido means thankful in Spanish. And I was just so thankful for what God has done from going through extreme loss to now where I'm at today. It's such a blessing.
yeah, yeah. So that's kind of why we're here today. The Kindness Podcast is all about how we see God's kindness in our lives. Or I would love for you to share a story either about that, or if you wanted to share a story about like kindness, like something you did and how that made you feel, or when kindness showed up just when you needed it. Um, it is this idea of the fact that we see God through kindness.
Yeah, we do. I'll give one story that I give often. I have several stories, but one of the stories when my wife, Leah Set, was pregnant with our fourth child, she was about 6 months pregnant. The Lord, not an audible voice, but spoke to us that we should
Mhm.
name this child Emmanuel. And I love that name Emmanuel because it means God with us. And when the baby came 3 months later, he came on my first wife, Sophia's birthday, which,
Mm.
means Emmanuel, God with us. And I love that because God was showing me that He was God with me in the loss, God with me in the anxiety, God with me in the questions, God with me in the depression, you name it. But He's also been God with me in the restoration, in the remarriage, in the birthing of children, in the beautiful home that we've built with my wife and my kids. Like it's just we don't live in a house, we live in a home because of the goodness of God. But that's just one example of like just when I was holding my baby Emmanuel when he was born, it just made me think of wow, God with us. Truly, this is the Emmanuel moment. God with me.
Yeah. That is beyond kindness. That's just a plain old miracle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And
Yeah,
and
you
there's
got a front row seat for that.
yeah, so many of those moments. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, the other thing that we like to share with people is a tip, like a kindness tip for your life. And so, let me back up for a second because I do want to say this. As you were talking about God with us um, and in what that meant to you and the hope that gave you. As I was talking to people earlier on the podcast, I was saying, the thing that I really appreciate about you is the fact that you put yourself out there again and again and again. And there's a cost to that. People can be like, woo,
Yeah.
Danny Gokey, I get to live in a big house, beautiful wife, woot, woot, and people love me. But the fact of the matter is, like, not everybody loves us, right? There's an enemy out there. And so you put yourself out there again and again and again, and you stand against that criticism, you stand against those arrows, all to give other people hope through your music. And
Amen.
what a gift. What an act of kindness. Really. It's just so precious to me. So That said, now, what sort of tip do you have? Because you probably deal with difficult people quite often, or situations that can make
Yeah.
you hot.
Well, sometimes I can be that difficult person, right? And I have to remind myself, right, what is the root of this issue here? Because there's I think one of the kindest things that you can do, there's so many things I could say, but the thing that sticks out to me right now is that you make sure that you're getting filled up. Because if there's a depletion in you, you're going to deplete people around you, right? So what I've noticed for myself is like, well, wait, I am since I'm being depleted, I'm being short with people. I'm not being as kind as I need to be, or I'm having to like fake the funk, right? You got to
Right,
like put the mask
totally.
on.
Totally, yes.
I started realizing that's because there's a lack of something that I need from God in my life.
Mm.
And so we must go back to the root for me, the root of prayer, worship, and getting refilled by God. I just feel like that's really important because it's like a lamp. A lamp cannot function unless it's plugged into its power source. You know, you could think of a anything our air conditioning, our heating, there's a functioning thing that it does that brings great blessing to us. Our refrigerators, our our devices that we have, right? There's a great function, but if it's not connected to the power source, it cannot be what it's supposed to be. And we were all created in love and created. And what is love? Because right now the world is trying to minimize what love is. And
Yes.
we're hearing this phrase, love is love. And what is interesting, it seems like they're creating a new love because that could be a cover up because usually a lot of people are using this love is love to do something that is not good in our society, right? But what is God defined as love? Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not easily angered. Love keeps no record of wrong. Love is long suffering. Love does not boast. It is not envious. It is so when we look at and so basically love does no harm to its neighbor. So
Mhm.
if we're dealing with a shortage of love, we got to go back to the source of love because well naturally when we're walking in love we'll be kind, right? We'll
Right.
be we'll be patient. We won't be easily angered. So love has a definition and love revealed himself through Jesus on the cross. And that's what we got to always stay connected with because Jesus was always loving. You look at the scriptures, there's a time where Jesus was walking through a hard situation. He had just got news that John the Baptist, his cousin, the one that baptized him, got beheaded.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus went to go get away to be by himself, but then the multitudes followed him. And when the multitudes followed him, what did the Bible say? Compassion filled his heart. Now,
Mhm.
when multitudes follow me, and compassion is not the first thing that fills my heart, especially if I'm at my home place. You know what I mean? That's just
Yes,
being like
right,
you need that.
absolutely.
But somehow, since he was so connected, that he began to heal the multitudes. And then the disciples present the problem. So remember, he's walking in the midst of a difficult situation. But
Mhm.
because of his union with God, the disciples say, hey, you got to send these guys home because there's not enough food. And Jesus, because of the compassion, says, you feed them. He indicts them and says, you do it. And the disciples start throwing out their excuses, right? Don't we always have excuses when we
Yeah,
go out and we don't want to, we just don't want to be bothered right now. I need to rest, right?
right.
But
Yep.
but the little they had, so sometimes there's a little bit of compassion and it's just a tiny bit. We're mostly not kind, mostly frustrated, but they gave them their two fish and five loaves, minimum, nothing. But
Mhm.
even when you're in a place where you don't feel refilled, you can give God that little compassion you have and watch him multiply it. He took that little bit they had and they fed 5,000 people. Meaning, so what's my point? Jesus was connected to the source that had unlimited kindness, unlimited provision, unlimited whatever it needed to be.
Yeah.
And if we can just tap into that, we will not be depleted and we will always have extra kindness to give out. And I think we need that, right?
Oh, do we ever? No kidding. So, Well, I say this because I just got off of a 3-month sabbatical, right? I
Wow.
felt that need to reconnect to the source,
Yeah.
and
Amen.
great things have come out of it. So when I started feeling that frustration, I went up to the mountaintop by myself, and the
Wow.
multitudes did not follow me. I was there
Yes.
on my own.
Yes.
So tell me, Danny, like, do you get that time? Do you take that time where you can say, okay, God, I understand that I am to have compassion for these people, but I also know that I've got to show some kindness to myself.
Yeah. And that's where I have, because it's an interesting, I think being easily angered,
Mm.
these are check engine lights, right? Not being
Ah,
kind, not being patient. And for any one of us, it's easy for us to gloss over them, like, oh, I'm going to do better next time. And you just move forward. You just kind of rush through your next life till you hit the next opportunity where you fail the test again. I think those check engine lights need to be indicators for us to say, hey, there's something lacking on the inside of me. And I keep rushing from situation to situation. I'm always promised myself, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to be kind again. And then you jump to the next, and then you're inconvenienced with another situation. You're like, ah, I just don't want to do that right now. I don't want to go to this event. I'm just so tired. Those are check engine lights to say, hey, in your spare time, your own strength is not enough to, be kind, be brave, and be you, right? You got to go
oh
to
my
the
gosh,
source
I
first.
love you.
You got to
That's
go to
my
the
branding,
source.
everyone. Danny
Uh,
just joking.
well, I love it. And it's actually really great because we were uniquely created by God to be exactly what you say. Be brave, be kind, be you. But there's an alternate version of us that we turn into if we sell out for a shorter life of immediate pleasure, self
Mhm.
gratification, self focus, what about me? That will turn you into what you were never supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we got to go back to the source, right? Go back to the source.
Okay.
He
Your
created me to
kindness
be
tip
loved.
from your kindness tip from Danny Gokey. You've heard it right there. Go back to the source.
Yes.
Keep an eye on those check engine lights. Danny,
Hmm.
is there anything else that you want to tell people? Oh, I know what I want to tell people. You have 2
Yeah.
Christmas albums.
Yes. And I go on this Christmas tour every year with Natalie Grant that just does so well. Her and my voice. I'm just gonna brag on us for a minute, but we're two powerhouse voices.
Oh,
But
no
it's great.
kidding.
And these Christmas albums, man, people they love them, and I get such great feedback on it, and I'm excited. I'm finishing up my tour now. I got about tonight we're in. People can go to DannyGokey.com if they want to see where they can meet us out on the road for tour. We
Yeah.
have the shows listed there, but and now the Christmas tour will be listed up there. But great things happening. I'm grateful. I'm grateful I get to do what I get to do.
Mhm. I'm grateful that you came to talk with me today. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
And Danny, hold on for 1 second. I'm going to say to everybody else, though, for just a moment, hey, thank you. Thank you for being part of the kickoff for the season 5. The season 5 of the Kindness Podcast. I'm so glad that you were here today. And may God bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you. Until next time, bye.